The observer. The vast expanse of space stretched out before the viewing port of the starship Eternal Seeker, an endless canvas of pinprick stars and swirling nebulae. Captain Alina Reeves stood motionless, her weathered hands clasped behind her back, as she gazed into the cosmic abyss. At first glance, she appeared to be a woman in her mid-50s, with streaks of gray in her dark hair and laugh lines etched around her eyes. But those eyes, a deep steel blue, held the weight of millennia. Behind her, the bridge of the Eternal Seeker hummed with activity. Alien crew members moved with fluid grace between holographic displays, their movements precise and unhurried. They had all the time in the universe, after all. All except one. "Captain," a melodious voice called out. "We're approaching the anomaly." Elena turned, her movements deliberate and measured. Her first officer, Zarak, stood at attention, his iridescent skin shimmering under the ambient light of the bridge. Like all Syrians, Zarak possessed a lithe, almost ethereal quality. His large, multifaceted eyes regarded Elena with a mixture of respect and perpetual curiosity. "Thank you, Zarak," Elena replied, her voice carrying the slight rasp of age. "Bring us to full stop at a safe distance. I want all sensors focused on that anomaly." As Zarak relayed the orders, Elena allowed herself a small smile. Even after all these centuries, the thrill of discovery never faded. The Eternal Seeker was more than just a starship. It was a mobile research station, crewed by some of the finest scientific minds in the galaxy. Their mission was to seek out and study the universe's greatest mysteries, pushing the boundaries of knowledge ever further. Elena made her way to the central command console, her steps measured but confident. The crew, a diverse mix of species from across the galaxy, worked in seamless harmony. To them, their human captain was an enigma, a relic of a bygone era when mortality still held sway over an entire species. "Captain," Zarak said, falling into step beside her, "may I inquire about something?" Elena nodded, her eyes still fixed on the approaching anomaly displayed on the main view screen. "Always, old friend." Zarak hesitated, his antennae twitching slightly, a sign of nervousness in his species. "It's been 3 centuries since I joined this crew, and in all that time, I've never fully understood. Why do you continue?" The question hung in the air, loaded with unspoken implications. In a universe where death had been conquered, where species after species had embraced immortality, humanity stood apart. They alone had refused the gift of endless life, clinging to their mortality as if it were a precious treasure rather than a curse. Elena turned to face her first officer, her blue eyes softening. "It's not an easy question to answer, Zarak, but perhaps it's time I tried." She gestured towards her ready room. "Walk with me." As they entered the captain's private sanctuary, Elena felt the weight of her years more acutely. The room was a testament to her long life. Shelves lined with physical books, a rarity in this digital age, and mementos from 100 different worlds. She ran her fingers along the spine of an ancient leather-bound volume, a gift from her great-great-granddaughter on her 1000th birthday. "Humanity's choice to remain mortal puzzles you, doesn't it?" Elena asked, settling into a comfortable chair. Zarak nodded, taking a seat across from her. "It defies logic," the alien admitted. "Your species achieved wonders, unlocked the secrets of the cosmos alongside the rest of us. Yet you choose to die. And you, Captain, you've lived far longer than most humans, yet you too will one day die." Elena finished for him, a wry smile on her lips. "Yes, Zarak, one day I will die. But that day is not today, nor tomorrow. I've walked this universe for over 3,000 years, and do you know what I've discovered?" Zarak leaned forward, his multifaceted eyes reflecting the starlight streaming through the viewport. "What have you discovered, Captain?" "That the greatest gift humanity ever received was not the auction of immortality, but the choice to refuse it," Elena said softly. "Death gives life meaning, Zarak. It gives us purpose, drive. The knowledge that our time is finite pushes us to achieve greatness, to leave a legacy. The alien's antennae twitched in confusion. But with immortality, one could achieve so much more. Learn everything, see everything. Elena shook her head. And then what? When you've seen it all, done it all, what's left? No, my friend. Humanity chose a different path. We embraced our mortality and used it as fuel for our greatest achievements. She stood, walking to the viewport. The anomaly loomed larger now, a shimmering distortion in the fabric of space. Look at that, Zarak. In all your centuries, have you ever seen anything like it? No, the alien admitted, joining her at the window. Neither have I, Elena said, a spark of excitement in her eyes. And that's why I'm still here, still searching. Because no matter how long I live, the universe will always have new wonders to show me, new mysteries to solve. Zarak was silent for a long moment, processing the captain's words. I think I begin to understand, he said slowly. Your mortality drives you to seek out these wonders, to solve these mysteries because we know our time to do so is limited. Elena finished. Every discovery, every moment of awe is precious because it might be our last. It's why humanity has pushed the boundaries of science and exploration further than any other species. We're not burdened by eternity. We're liberated by our finite existence. A soft chime interrupted their conversation. Captain to the bridge, a voice announced. We're in position to begin our scans of the anomaly. Elena straightened, the mantle of command settling over her once more. Well, Zarak, shall we go solve another mystery? As they walked back to the bridge, Zarak found himself looking at his captain with new eyes. He had always respected Elena Reeves, but now he began to understand the depths of her strength, the wellspring of her determination. The bridge was a flurry of activity as they entered. Holographic displays flickered with streams of data, alien scientists calling out readings and observations. Elena took it all in with a practiced eye, decades of experience allowing her to quickly assess the situation. Report, she commanded, her voice cutting through the excited chatter. A Valoran scientist, her tentacles wrapped around several input devices at once, responded. Captain, the anomaly appears to be a temporal rift. We're detecting chronoton particles consistent with a breakdown in the space-time continuum. Elena's eyes narrowed. A natural phenomenon. Unlikely, the Valoran replied. The energy signature suggests artificial manipulation of temporal forces. Someone, or something, created this rift intentionally. A ripple of excitement passed through the crew. Artificial time manipulation was theoretically possible, but had never been successfully achieved. If this anomaly was indeed the result of such technology, it could revolutionize their understanding of the universe. Fascinating, Elena murmured, her mind already racing with possibilities. She turned to Zarak. Prepare a probe. I want to know everything about this rift, its composition, stability, and most importantly, what's on the other side. As the crew scrambled to carry out her orders, Elena felt a familiar surge of adrenaline. This was why she had chosen to extend her life far beyond the usual human lifespan. This moment of discovery, of pushing back the boundaries of the known, made every lonely century worth it. She caught Zarak watching her, a new understanding in his alien eyes. You see now? She asked quietly. The Syrian nodded. I believe I do, Captain. Your mortality doesn't limit you. It drives you. Each discovery is a victory against time itself. Elena finished. Now let's see what secrets this universe has been keeping from us, shall we? As the probe launched towards the shimmering rift, Captain Elena Reeves stood tall on the bridge of the Eternal Seeker. She was more than just the commander of a starship. She was a bridge between two worlds, mortal and immortal. And as long as the cosmos held mysteries to unravel, she would be there, leading the charge into the unknown. The rift loomed before them, a tear in the very fabric of reality. Whatever lay beyond, Elena knew, would change everything. But then again, change was what humanity did best. Echoes of the past. The probe disappeared into the shimmering veil of the temporal rift, leaving behind a wake of scintillating particles. On the bridge of the Eternal Seeker, all eyes were fixed on the main view screen, breaths held in anticipation. Captain Elena Reeves leaned forward, her weathered hands gripping the arms of her command chair. "Telemetry coming in," announced the Valoran scientist, her tentacles dancing over the control panels. "The probe has successfully penetrated the rift." Elena nodded, her steel-blue eyes never leaving the screen. "What are we seeing?" The answer came not in words, but in a flood of images that suddenly filled the view screen. The crew gasped collectively as they beheld a sight none had expected. The unmistakable skyline of Earth, but not as any of them knew it. "That's impossible," Zarak whispered, his antennae quivering in disbelief. But Elena knew better. Her eyes widened as she took in the familiar yet alien landscape. Towering skyscrapers of glass and steel reached for the clouds, but between them stood structures of an older, grander design. Horse-drawn carriages shared the streets with sleek hovercars, and in the sky, dirigibles floated serenely alongside anti-gravity platforms. "Not impossible," Elena said softly, a hint of wonder in her voice. "Improbable, perhaps, but not impossible. We're looking at a version of Earth where different eras of history exist simultaneously." The crew turned to her, a mix of confusion and awe on their alien faces. Elena stood, moving closer to the view screen. "I've seen something like this before," she explained, her mind racing back through centuries of memories. "It was early in my career before I took command of the Eternal Seeker. We encountered a planet trapped in a temporal loop where multiple timelines had collapsed into a single chaotic present." Zarak stepped up beside her, his multifaceted eyes reflecting the bizarre cityscape. "But Earth was never affected by such a phenomenon. Our historical records are quite clear on that." Elena nodded, a grim smile playing on her lips. "You're right, old friend. Which means we're not looking at our Earth. This is something else. An alternate reality, perhaps, or a constructed facsimile." As if to underscore her words, the image on the view screen suddenly shifted. The probe had moved, revealing more of this strange world. They saw glimpses of people going about their daily lives, men in top hats and tailcoats walking alongside women in futuristic jumpsuits, children playing with both wooden hoops and holographic toys. "Fascinating," murmured a Xintai scientist, his crystalline body structure vibrating with excitement. "The cultural and technological disparity should be causing massive societal upheaval, and yet they seem to coexist peacefully." Elena finished for him, almost as if this state of temporal flux is natural to them. The implications were staggering. If this world was indeed real and not some elaborate illusion, it represented a complete upheaval of everything they thought they knew about time, causality, and the nature of reality itself. Suddenly, alarms blared across the bridge. The Valoran scientist's tentacles flew across her console. "Captain, we're detecting a massive energy surge from the rift. It's expanding." Elena's command training kicked in instantly. Red alert. Shields up, full power to engines. Prepare to retreat to a safe distance. But even as the words left her mouth, she knew it was too late. The rift on the view screen ballooned outward, tendrils of temporal energy lashing out like hungry serpents. One such tendril struck the Eternal Seeker, and the world dissolved into chaos. Elena was thrown from her feet as the ship bucked and rolled. Klaxons wailed, and the air itself seemed to shimmer and distort. Through the haze of disorientation, she saw her crew struggling to maintain their stations, some phasing in and out of visibility, as if caught between moments in time. "Stabilize the chronoton field," she shouted, pulling herself up using the arm of her command chair. "Modulate the shields to match the temporal frequency of the rift." Her orders cut through the chaos, a lifetime of experience guiding her actions. Elena moved with purpose, her hands flying over control panels, making adjustments that her younger crew members couldn't hope to understand. In that moment, as reality itself seemed to unravel around them, Alina Reeves was in her element. 3,000 years of life had prepared her for this. Every crisis faced, every impossible situation overcome, had led to this moment. Zarak. She called out, spotting her first officer clinging to a nearby console. Initiate emergency protocol, Omega-7. The Syrian's eyes widened in recognition. Omega-7 was a theoretical procedure, developed by Alina herself, designed to protect a ship caught in a temporal distortion. It had never been tested in real conditions, until now. As Zarak worked to implement the protocol, Alina felt a strange sensation wash over her. The world around her seemed to slow, individual moments stretching into eternity. She saw flashes of her past, her first command, the birth of her children, the day she said goodbye to her last living descendant. But mixed with these memories were glimpses of things she had never experienced, versions of herself that had taken different paths, made different choices. Through sheer force of will, Alina pushed through the temporal distortion. Her hands moved with practiced precision, enacting a series of commands that would realign the ship's chronoton field with the stable spacetime outside the rift. "Hold on, everyone," she shouted, her voice seeming to echo across multiple timelines. "This is going to be rough." With a final keystroke, Alina activated the realignment sequence. The Eternal Seeker shuddered violently, and for a heart-stopping moment, it felt as if the ship might tear itself apart. But then, with a sudden lurch, they were through. The view screen cleared, showing the star-studded expanse of normal space. The temporal rift was still visible, but at a safe distance, no longer the imminent threat it had been moments ago. A collective sigh of relief swept through the bridge. Alina allowed herself a small smile as she surveyed her crew. They were shaken, but alive and unharmed. Once again, humanity's unique perspective had saved the day. "Damage report," she called out, settling. "Damage report," she called out, settling back into her command chair. Zarak, his iridescent skin still shimmering with residual temporal energy, moved to his station. "Hull integrity at 92%, Captain. Minor systems damage across all decks, but nothing critical. Engineering reports the warp drive is offline, but they estimate repairs within the hour." Alina nodded, her mind already racing ahead to their next steps. "And the crew?" "Some minor injuries reported, but no casualties," Zarak replied, relief evident in his voice. "Medical teams are responding." However, he paused, his antennae twitching nervously. "Go on," Alina encouraged. "Several crew members are reporting temporal displacement symptoms, memories that don't align with our timeline, physical sensations of being in multiple places at once. Dr. Lixana is monitoring the situation closely." Alina frowned. She had experienced something similar during the incident, but had hoped it was limited to her unique physiology. "Keep me updated on their condition. In the meantime, I want a full analysis of what just happened. That rift is unlike anything we've encountered before, and I want to know why." As the crew set about their tasks, Alina found her gaze drawn back to the view screen, where the temporal rift still shimmered ominously. In all her centuries of exploration, she had never seen anything quite like it. The implications were staggering. A window into alternate timelines, perhaps even a gateway to parallel universes. But with such potential came grave danger. The rift's unexpected expansion had nearly torn the Eternal Seeker apart. If such an anomaly were to appear near a populated world, Alina shuddered at the thought. Her mind flashed back to a memory from nearly 2,000 years ago, when she was still a young officer in Earth's fledgling interstellar fleet. The planet Novus Prime had been humanity's first extrasolar colony, a shining beacon of hope for a species taking its first tentative steps into the cosmos. Alina, then Lieutenant Reeves, had been part of the security detail for a routine supply run. But there had been nothing routine about what they found. As their ship dropped out of warp, they were greeted not by the familiar blue-green orb of Novus Prime, but by a roiling mass of temporal energy. The entire planet and its surrounding space had been engulfed in a chronoton storm of unprecedented magnitude. Emergency calls flooded in from the surface, reports of buildings aging centuries in minutes, of people disappearing and reappearing, of past and future versions of colonists walking the streets. Chaos reigned as the very fabric of time unraveled around the colony. The rescue efforts had been desperate and largely futile. Elena could still hear the screams of those they couldn't save, could still see the haunted eyes of the few they managed to evacuate. In the end, Novus Prime was lost, quarantined behind a temporal barrier that would stand for centuries. It was that day, watching helplessly as an entire world was swallowed by temporal chaos, that Elena had made a vow. She would dedicate her life, however long that might be, to understanding the mysteries of the universe, to ensuring that such a tragedy would never happen again. "Captain," Zarak's voice pulled Elena from her reverie. "Are you all right?" She blinked, realizing she had been lost in thought for several minutes. "Yes, just remembering." Zarak nodded in understanding. He had served with Elena long enough to recognize when she was wrestling with the weight of her long memory. "The analysis team has some preliminary findings," he reported. "They believe the rift may be artificial in nature." Elena's eyebrows shot up. "Artificial? You mean someone created this deliberately?" "It appears so," Zarak confirmed. "The energy signature doesn't match any known natural phenomenon, and there are traces of an unknown technology at work, something far beyond our current capabilities." The implications were both exciting and terrifying. If someone had the power to create tears in the fabric of spacetime at will, the potential for both scientific advancement and catastrophic destruction was immense. "We need to investigate further," Elena decided, rising from her chair. "Zarak, assemble a team. We're going to send a manned shuttle through the rift." The bridge fell silent, all eyes turning to the captain in shock. Zarak's antennae quivered with concern. "Captain, with all due respect, the risk is considerable." "I know," Elena cut him off. "But so is the potential reward. If there's an intelligence behind this rift, we need to make contact. And if this is indeed a gateway to an alternate Earth, we have a responsibility to investigate." She turned to address the entire bridge crew. "I understand the dangers. That's why I'll be leading the mission myself." A chorus of protests arose, but Elena silenced them with a raised hand. "This isn't up for debate. I have more experience with temporal anomalies than anyone else on this ship, and—" She paused, a wry smile touching her lips. "Let's face it, I'm the most expendable person here. The rest of you have eternity ahead of you. I don't." The stark reminder of their captain's mortality silenced the crew. Elena could see the mix of emotions on their faces: respect, concern, and a touch of the ever-present bewilderment at humanity's embrace of their finite existence. "Prepare the shuttle," she ordered. "We launch in 1 hour." As the crew scrambled to carry out her orders, Elena felt a familiar surge of anticipation. This was why she had chosen to extend her life far beyond the normal human span. The thrill of discovery, the chance to unravel the universe's greatest mysteries. It made every lonely century worth it. She caught Zarak watching her, a new understanding in his alien eyes. "You're not expendable, Captain," he said softly. "You know that, don't you?" Elena's expression softened. "I appreciate that, old friend. But the simple truth is, I've lived a full life, many full lives, by human standards. If this mission goes wrong, I can face that end knowing I've made a difference. Can you say the same?" Zarak was silent for a long moment. "No," he finally admitted. "I don't think any of us can. That's why. That's why we need you, Elena. Your perspective, your drive. It pushes us to be better, to do more." Elena placed a hand on her first officer's shoulder. "Then let's make sure this mission succeeds, shall we? We've got a universe of wonders waiting for us on the other side of that rift. And I, for one, intend to see them all." As she turned to leave the bridge, Alina felt the weight of her years, the accumulated knowledge and experience of 30 centuries. But she also felt the spark of excitement that had driven her since she first looked up at the stars as a young girl on Earth. The universe still had secrets to reveal, and Captain Alina Reeves was determined to uncover them all, no matter the cost. The Seeker's Path. The shuttle bay of the Eternal Seeker hummed with activity as the final preparations for the mission were made. Captain Alina Reeves stood before the sleek craft that would carry her team through the temporal rift, her eyes scanning every detail with practiced precision. "Final systems check complete, Captain," reported Lieutenant Kira, a young Indarian whose blue-tinged skin seemed to shimmer with nervous energy. "All systems are go." Alina nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. "Nervous, Lieutenant?" Kira's antennae twitched slightly, the Andarian equivalent of a blush. "A little, Captain. I've never been on a mission quite like this before." "Neither have I," Alina admitted, her voice tinged with excitement rather than apprehension. "In 3,000 years of exploring the cosmos, this is a first. That's the beauty of it, Kira. No matter how long you live, the universe always has something new to show you." The young officer's eyes widened slightly, a mix of awe and curiosity in her gaze. It was a look Alina had seen countless times over the centuries, the inevitable fascination other species held for humanity's unique perspective on life and death. "Captain," Zarak's voice called out as the Syrian first officer approached, datapad in hand. "The latest sensor readings from the rift. There's something you should see." Alina took the pad, her brow furrowing as she studied the data. The temporal distortions around the rift were increasing in frequency and intensity. What had been a stable phenomenon was now showing signs of instability. "How long?" she asked, her tone sharp. "At the current rate of deterioration, we estimate the rift will collapse in approximately 72 hours, Zarak replied grimly. Alina's mind raced, weighing options and calculating risks with the speed of long experience. "Then we don't have much time. We need to launch now." She turned to address the assembled team, a mix of the Eternal Seeker's brightest scientific minds and most capable security officers. "Listen up, everyone. Our window of opportunity is shrinking. We go in, we gather as much data as we can, we attempt to make contact if possible, and we get out. Any questions?" The silence that followed was answer enough. Alina nodded, satisfied. "Then let's make history." As the team boarded the shuttle, Alina felt a familiar tug at her heart. How many times had she said goodbye to a crew, never knowing if she'd see them again? But this time was different. This time, she was going with them, leading from the front as she always had. The shuttle's engines hummed to life as Alina took her place in the pilot's seat. Her hands moved over the controls with practiced ease, muscle memory built over millennia guiding her actions. "Eternal Seeker, this is the shuttle Curiosity," she spoke into the comm. "We are ready for launch." "Curiosity, you are cleared for launch," came Zarek's voice, tinged with a concern he couldn't quite hide. "Godspeed, Captain. Come back to us." Alina allowed herself a small smile. "Always do, old friend." Curiosity out. With a final check of her team, Alina engaged the shuttle's engines. They slipped out of the Eternal Seeker's bay and into the vast expanse of space, the shimmering temporal rift looming before them like a doorway to another world. As they approached, the shuttle sensors began to whine in protest, struggling to make sense of the readings from the anomaly. Reality itself seemed to bend and warp around the rift, stars visible through it shifting and changing as if seen through a kaleidoscope. "Brace yourselves," Alina called out, her hands tight on the controls. "This is going to be rough." With a deep breath, she guided the shuttle forward. For a moment, it felt as if the very atoms of their beings were being pulled apart and reassembled. The world outside the viewports became a swirling mass of color and light. And then, suddenly, they were through. The chaos subsided, revealing a sight that left even Alina, with all her centuries of experience, breathless. Before them lay Earth, but not the Earth any of them knew. It was a world of impossibilities made real, where past, present, and future collided in a breathtaking tapestry of human achievement. Gleaming skyscrapers of an impossibly advanced design rose alongside medieval castles. Streets bustled with a mix of horse-drawn carriages, modern cars, and vehicles that seemed to defy gravity itself. And in the sky, great airships floated serenely past shuttlecraft that looked even more advanced than their own. "It's beautiful," whispered Kira, her voice filled with awe. "And impossible," added Dr. Yara, the team's senior physicist. "The temporal contradictions alone should tear this world apart. How can it exist?" Alina's mind was already racing ahead, piecing together the puzzle before them. "It exists because someone wants it to," she said slowly, a theory forming. "This isn't a natural phenomenon. It's a construct, a world created by an intelligence with mastery over time itself." As if in response to her words, a new reading appeared on the shuttle's sensors. A massive structure, previously hidden from their scans, shimmered into view at the heart of this impossible city. It was a tower that seemed to stretch endlessly into the sky, its architecture a blend of every human era and some that had never existed at all. "There," Alina said, pointing to the tower. "That's where we'll find our answers." She guided the shuttle towards the structure, marveling at the way the city seemed to part before them, streams of traffic flowing around them as if they were expected. As they drew closer to the tower, a landing pad materialized near its apex, a clear invitation. "Well," Alina said, a hint of her old excitement creeping into her voice, "it seems our hosts are expecting us. Let's not keep them waiting." As she maneuvered the shuttle towards the landing pad, Alina felt the weight of the moment. In all her long years, she had never encountered anything quite like this. Whatever awaited them in that tower would change everything, not just for her crew, but for all sentient life in the galaxy. The shuttle touched down with a gentle thud. For a moment, no one moved, the enormity of what they were about to do settling over the team like a heavy blanket. "Remember," Alina said, rising from her seat, "we're here to observe, to learn, and if possible, to make peaceful contact. Stay alert, stay together, and above all, stay curious. That's what brought humanity to the stars, and it's what will guide us now." With a nod to her team, Alina moved to the shuttle's hatch. She took a deep breath, savoring the moment. Then, with a smile that held 3,000 years of wonder, she pressed the button to open the door. "Well," she said, stepping out onto the alien yet familiar soil of this impossible Earth, "let's go see what the universe has in store for us this time." As her team followed her out of the shuttle, Alina Reeves stood tall, her eyes bright with the thrill of discovery. Whatever lay ahead, she was ready to face it, not just as a captain, but as a representative of humanity, with all its flaws, its courage, and its boundless curiosity. The tower loomed above them, a silent sentinel holding the secrets of time itself, and as they approached its entrance, Alina couldn't help but feel that she was walking not just into the unknown, but into the very future of her species. The adventure, it seemed, was only just beginning. Mortality's edge. The interior of the tower was a marvel that defied description. As Captain Alina Reeves led her team through its winding corridors, they found themselves moving not just through space, but through time itself. One moment they were walking through a hallway that could have been lifted straight from ancient Egypt, hieroglyphs adorning the walls. The next, they were in a sleek, futuristic chamber filled with technology beyond even their advanced understanding. "Incredible," breathed Dr. Yara, her eyes wide as she tried to take in every detail. "The level of temporal manipulation required to create this, it's beyond anything we've ever theorized." Alina nodded, her own senses on high alert. In all her centuries of exploration, she had never encountered anything quite like this. The air itself seemed charged with potential, as if reality here was more suggestion than absolute. "Stay sharp," she reminded her team. "We don't know what, or who, we might encounter here." As if in response to her words, a figure shimmered into existence before them. It was humanoid in shape, but its form seemed to shift and change, one moment appearing as an elderly man in robes, the next as a young woman in a futuristic suit, then as a child in primitive furs. Only its eyes remained constant, ancient, knowing, and filled with an intelligence that made even Elena feel young by comparison. "Welcome, travelers." The being spoke, its voice a harmonious blend of tones and accents from across human history. "We have been expecting you." Elena stepped forward, her posture straight and confident, despite the awe she felt. "I am Captain Elena Reeves of the starship Eternal Seeker. We come in peace, seeking understanding." The being's form settled, for the moment, into that of a middle-aged man with kind eyes and a gentle smile. "Of course you do, Elena. Curiosity has always been humanity's greatest strength and its greatest weakness." A chill ran down Elena's spine at the casual use of her name. "You know who I am." The being's smile widened. "We know all of you, every life, every choice, every possible path. We are the guardians of time, the caretakers of this nexus of realities." Elena's mind raced with the implications. This place, it's not just a construct, is it? It's a meeting point of multiple timelines, multiple Earths. Perceptive, as always, the Guardian nodded. "This nexus allows us to observe, and when necessary, guide the development of humanity." Perceptive, as always, the Guardian nodded. "This nexus allows us to observe, and when necessary, guide the development of humanity across all possible timelines." Elena's mind reeled at the implications. "You're saying you intervene in human history, play God with our destiny." The Guardian's form shifted again, this time to that of a wise old woman. "Not God, Captain. Gardeners, perhaps. We nurture, we prune when necessary, but the growth, the choices, those are always humanity's own." Dr. Yara stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overriding her awe. "But the temporal energies required for such a construct, the paradoxes alone should tear reality apart." "In your understanding of physics, yes," the Guardian agreed. "But we have mastered energies and sciences beyond your current comprehension. This nexus exists in a state of temporal grace, outside the normal flow of cause and effect." As fascinating as this was, Elena couldn't shake a growing sense of unease. "Why reveal yourselves to us now? Why allow us to discover your rift?" The Guardian's expression grew serious, its form shifting to that of a battle-hardened soldier. "Because, Captain Reeves, we face a crisis that threatens not just this nexus, but all of reality and humanity, specific humans, across multiple timelines, may be the key to solving it." Before Elena could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the structure. The very air seemed to ripple and distort, and Elena felt a sickening lurch in her stomach, as if reality itself was trying to tear itself apart. "What's happening?" she demanded, steadying herself against a wall that seemed to flicker between stone, metal, and something utterly alien. The Guardian's form flickered rapidly between dozens of appearances. "The crisis we feared, it's accelerating. The temporal stability of the nexus is collapsing. If it fails completely, the resultant temporal shockwave will ripple across all timelines, all realities. Trillions of lives, past, present, and future, will be erased from existence." Elena's tactical mind kicked into high gear. "How do we stop it?" "We've identified the source of the instability," the Guardian explained, its voice taking on an urgency that belied its timeless nature. "A critical junction point in humanity's timeline. A moment where the collective choices of humanity will determine the fate of not just your species, but all sentient life in the cosmos. And you need us to what? Go to this junction point and ensure the right choice is made?" Elena asked, already guessing where this was leading. The Guardian nodded. "Precisely. But it's not that simple. The junction point is spread across multiple timelines, multiple versions of Earth. We need a team to simultaneously influence events in each of these realities." Elena looked at her crew, seeing the mix of fear and determination on their faces. "We'll do it," she said without hesitation. "Tell us what we need to do." The Guardian waved a hand, and suddenly the room was filled with holographic displays showing different versions of Earth at various points in history. Each of you will be sent to a different timeline. Your task will be to guide key individuals towards choices that will collectively steer humanity towards a path of wisdom and cosmic responsibility, rather than destruction and chaos. "And me?" Elena asked, sensing there was more. The Guardian turned to her, its form settling into that of a mirror image of Elena herself, but older, wearier. "You, Captain, have the most crucial and dangerous task of all. You must travel to the prime focal point, the nexus of all these timelines. There you will face a challenge that will test not just your skills and knowledge, but the very essence of what makes humanity unique." Elena felt the weight of this responsibility settle on her shoulders, but she stood tall. This was what her long life had prepared her for. "I'm ready." The Guardian nodded, a look of respect in its eyes. "We know you are, Elena, but be warned, the energies at the focal point are immense. Even with our protection, the temporal forces you'll be exposed to, they will be too much for a mortal form to withstand for long." The implication was clear. This mission would likely be Elena's last. She felt her crew's eyes on her, saw the concern and admiration in their gazes. For a moment, she thought of all she had seen and done in her long life, of the family and friends long gone, of the wonders she had yet to explore. But then she thought of the trillions of lives at stake, of the future of not just humanity, but all sentient life in the cosmos. Her decision was already made. "How long will I have?" she asked, her voice steady. "At most, a few hours," the Guardian replied solemnly. "After that, the temporal energies will overwhelm your cellular structure. Not even our technology can prevent it." Elena nodded, a wry smile touching her lips. "Well then, we better not waste any time." She turned to her crew, seeing the mix of emotions on their faces: fear, admiration, and a dawning understanding of the true strength of humanity's embrace of mortality. "Listen up," she said, her voice ringing with the authority of 3,000 years of command. "Each of you has a crucial role to play. The fate of all reality rests on our success. Remember your training, trust your instincts, and above all, never forget what we stand for. Humanity has faced impossible odds before, and we've always found a way through. Today will be no different." She looked each of them in the eye, seeing not just her crew, but representatives of the myriad species that made up the galactic community. In that moment, she was not just Captain Elena Reeves, but a symbol of humanity itself, fragile yet unyielding, mortal yet eternal in their impact on the cosmos. "It has been my honor to serve with each of you," she said softly. "Now let's go make history, one last time." The Guardian raised its hands, and the air around them began to shimmer with temporal energy. "It is time," it announced. "May the wisdom of the ages guide you all." As the world began to dissolve around them, Elena felt a surge of emotions: fear, excitement, and a profound sense of purpose. She had lived far longer than any human was meant to, had seen wonders beyond imagination. And now, at the end, she would face her greatest challenge. The last thing she saw before the temporal energies engulfed her was the faces of her crew, a mix of species united in their respect and admiration for their human captain. In their eyes, Elena saw the future she was fighting for, a cosmos of diversity, wonder, and boundless potential. Then, in a flash of blinding light, she was gone, hurtling towards her destiny at the very edge of time itself. The fate of all reality now rested in the hands of a woman who had chosen, millennia ago, to embrace her mortality rather than hide from it. And as Elena Reeves faced her final mission, she did so not with fear, but with the unshakable determination that had driven humanity to the stars. The universe held its breath, waiting to see if one mortal woman could save all of creation. Beyond the horizon, the world coalesced around Elena in a dizzying whirl of temporal energy. As her vision cleared, she found herself standing on a platform suspended in what seemed to be the very heart of time itself. Streams of chronal particles flowed around her, each one a timeline, a potential future or past. A sharp pain lanced through her body, reminding her of the Guardian's warning. The temporal energies here were already beginning to take their toll. Elena gritted her teeth, pushing the discomfort aside. She had a job to do. Before her stood a massive crystalline structure that pulsed with energy. At its center, a swirling vortex of light and darkness battled for dominance. This, she realized, was the focal point, the nexus of all timelines, where the fate of reality itself would be decided. "Welcome, Captain Reeves," a voice echoed around her, seeming to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "We've been expecting you." Elena turned to see a figure approaching, a being of pure energy, its form constantly shifting between humanoid shapes from across history and species. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice steady despite the growing pain in her body. "We are the Convergence," the being replied. "The collective consciousness of all sentient life, past, present, and future. We are the ultimate evolution of intelligence in the cosmos." Elena's mind raced, trying to grasp the implications. "You're all of us, every thinking being that ever was or will be." The Convergence nodded, its form briefly settling into something resembling a human silhouette. "Precisely. And now, Captain, we face a choice that will determine the fate of all existence." With a wave of its hand, the Convergence brought forth two shimmering portals. In one, Elena saw a universe of unimaginable technological advancement, where beings of pure energy traversed the cosmos at will. In the other, she saw a quieter cosmos, where life flourished in myriad forms, each following its own path of natural evolution. "These are the two potential futures that stand before us," the Convergence explained. "In one, we transcend our physical forms, becoming beings of pure energy and thought, masters of time and space. In the other, we remain diverse, tied to our individual evolutions, our strengths and weaknesses intact." Elena studied both visions carefully. "And the choice between these futures is what's causing the temporal instability." "Yes," the Convergence confirmed. "The collective decisions of all sentient beings across all timelines are converging on this moment. The tension between these two possible futures is tearing reality apart. We must choose, and choose now, or all of existence will unravel." Elena felt the weight of this decision pressing down on her, the fate of all reality resting on her shoulders. She thought of her long life, of all she had seen and experienced. She thought of the crew she had left behind, of the countless beings across the cosmos whose lives hung in the balance. "Why me?" she asked, even as she felt another surge of pain rack her body. "Why leave this choice to a single human?" The Convergence's form shifted again, this time taking on aspects of every crew member Elena had ever served with. "Because, Captain Reeves, you represent something unique in the cosmos. Humanity's decision to remain mortal in a universe of immortals has given you a perspective that no other being possesses. You understand both the value of progress and the importance of remaining connected to one's roots." Elena nodded slowly, understanding dawning. She looked again at the two futures before her. The transcendent one was tempting, a future free from pain, from limitation, from the fear of death. But as she studied it, she realized something was missing. There was no struggle, no growth, no real change. She turned to the other future, the one where life remained diverse and grounded. It was messier, full of conflicts and challenges. But it was also vibrant, teeming with possibility and the potential for genuine evolution. In that moment, Elena understood why humanity's choice to embrace mortality had been so important. It wasn't about limiting themselves. It was about maintaining the drive to grow, to change, to become more than they were without losing touch with what made them who they were. "I've made my decision," she said, her voice ringing with certainty, despite the pain now coursing through every fiber of her being. The Convergence leaned forward, the fate of all reality hanging on Alina's next words. "We choose diversity," Alina declared. "We choose the path that keeps us connected to our roots, that allows for true growth and change. Transcendence isn't about shedding our physical forms. It's about becoming the best versions of ourselves while remembering where we came from." As soon as the words left her mouth, the crystalline structure before them began to pulse with blinding light. The warring energies at its center slowly began to harmonize, the temporal streams around them smoothing out. "It is done," the convergence announced, its voice filled with a mixture of relief and respect. "You have chosen wisely, Captain Reeves. Reality will stabilize, and the future you have chosen will come to pass." Alina felt a wave of relief wash over her, quickly followed by another surge of pain. She stumbled, her vision blurring. The convergence moved to support her, its energy form surprisingly solid. "Your time grows short, Captain," it said softly. "The temporal energies here are too much for your mortal form to bear any longer." Alina nodded, a small smile on her lips despite the pain. "I know, but it was worth it. Tell me, did the others succeed? My crew?" The convergence's form shifted, showing brief glimpses of Alina's team across different timelines. "Yes, Captain. Thanks to their efforts and yours, the future you have chosen will be realized across all realities." Alina's smile widened. "Good. That's good." She felt her strength fading, her connection to her physical form weakening. But there was no fear, only a sense of completion, of a job well done. "Captain Alina Reeves," the convergence spoke, its voice now a chorus of all those she had known and loved across her long life. "You have served not just humanity, but all of existence with honor and wisdom. Is there anything you wish for in these final moments?" Alina thought for a moment, then nodded. "Let me see it," she whispered. "The future we've saved. Let me see it one last time." The convergence waved its hand, and suddenly the platform around them dissolved. Alina found herself floating in space, but not as she had ever seen it before. The cosmos around her was alive with light and color, countless worlds teeming with life in all its beautiful diversity. She saw species she recognized and many she didn't, all coexisting, growing, striving to be better while staying true to their unique natures. And there, moving among the stars with the same wonder and determination she had always known, was humanity. Not transcendent beings of pure energy, but people still recognizably human, yet evolved, wiser, reaching out to the cosmos not to conquer, but to understand and connect. As Alina felt her consciousness beginning to fade, a profound sense of peace washed over her. This was what she had fought for, what she had lived for. A future of infinite diversity and infinite possibilities, where the journey was just as important as the destination. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice fading. "Thank you for letting me see." And with those final words, Captain Alina Reeves, the woman who had lived for millennia and saved all of reality, closed her eyes for the last time. Her physical form dissolved into motes of light, joining the cosmic dance she had given her life to preserve. The convergence watched as Alina's essence merged with the tapestry of existence, becoming a part of the very cosmos she had saved. In that moment, a new understanding rippled through the collective consciousness of all sentient life. Mortality was not a weakness to be overcome, but a gift to be cherished. It was the finite nature of human life that drove them to achieve greatness, to explore, to love, to leave a lasting impact on the universe around them. And in choosing to remain mortal, humanity had unknowingly safeguarded the very thing that made existence itself meaningful, the capacity for genuine growth, change, and evolution. As the last traces of Alina Reeves faded into the cosmic tapestry, her legacy lived on. Across countless worlds and throughout time itself, the story would be told of the human captain who lived for millennia and gave her life to save all of reality. And in every telling, beings of all kinds would be reminded of the incredible potential that lay within them. The power to shape the future, to overcome impossible odds, and to touch eternity itself through the lives they lived and the choices they made. In the end, Captain Alina Reeves had achieved something far greater than immortality. She had become a part of the very fabric of existence, a guiding light for all those who would look to the stars and dream of what might be. And somewhere, in the vast expanse of the cosmos, a new star twinkled into existence, shining with a light that seemed to carry within it the wisdom, courage, and indomitable spirit of humanity itself. The adventure, it seemed, was only just beginning.